I don't really know how to open this with the correct words because upon reading this chapter, I was kind of just speechless. It's always a fun time for me when you kind of get some sort of direction or an idea with where Chainsaw Man's going, and then the next chapter, Fujimoto takes it in an entirely different direction. It's very uncomfortable, but it's a good kind, because it's not predictable, because you get surprised by a lot of things within the chapter. There was nothing revolutionary within here, yet for me, it felt like it, and I've boiled that down to just being the Chainsaw Man experience. If you're reading this every single release, you're in for a great time. It's kind of unmatched, to be honest, or at least for me, it's very much within its own ballpark, within its own league. In saying that, it does make me nervous because there's a good chunk of things within here that really point in a direction of derailing Denji's lifestyle, putting him back within a cage very similar to part 1 with Makima's connection to him. We're slowly going back to that path, and while it's handled differently because it's no longer Makima but now more so Yoshida and Fami, the consequences are entirely different this time, and we still don't know the repercussions. We still don't know what type of consequences this actually leads to. I can say that Denji's life right now, this current time, is within shambles. This man has it rough. If there was no dialogue in this chapter at all, just look at his face. You would be able to tell absolutely everything you needed to know about how this boy feels because he wears it very visibly. The way he walks, his facial expression, everything is so meticulously detailed to express how out of it he truly is. A blank, dead expression. He's bored, he's unsure, he doesn't know what's going on and is kind of just riding on the coattails on where Yoshida wants to take him. It's very much problematic for his own health. Yet he hasn't really reached a point to be able to make his own decisions. Does that make sense? Which sucks because he's come a very long way to make his own decisions for a long time. Yet now it's becoming more and more closed in upon. If you were to compare him to the end of part 1 or even to the beginning of part 2, before even Yoshida enters the picture, he's kind of just living his life, experiencing things the way he wants to, being Chainsaw Man, going to school, making money. He seems like he's having fun, and while it's still very much tiring and boresome, he has Naruto, doesn't really have any friends, yet he's still doing what he wants to do, even if it feels like an obligation of kinds. Now, however, a lot of that freedom that he thought he might have had is closed off entirely. And now it's being controlled and manipulated even by both Yoshida and Fami. It's more important to point out Yoshida in this case because he's the one directing it. He's like the conductor of this situation, similar to Makima. He's cornering Denji from every aspect, with Naruto, with his lifestyle, with Chainsaw Man, and now even exploiting his weaknesses. Very evil of Yoshida to do. He's trying to paint this very perfect, normal lifestyle. And while Denji has spoken very briefly about having a normal life, this is not the vision he wanted. This is not the freedom that he deserves. A great way that this chapter sets it up, just to show you how convoluted and conflicted it is right at the beginning, when he's introduced to two random students that press him for wearing a Chainsaw Man shirt. A bunch of information is spewed out about Asumitaka and how Chainsaw Man is actually stealing or taking credit from Asumitaka's accomplishments. This is wild, because now you know that Asa is in a much higher standing, that popularity that Denji originally wanted. On a side note, it's going to be interesting to see just exactly how Asa is feeling. She's probably going to be very popular now, which is what she wasn't prior. She's probably going to have a lot of friends, or at least quote-unquote fake friends, so seeing her navigate through it, I'm excited to see. But it's coming at the cost of Denji, and they're kind of slowly replacing each other. What Asa has now is what Denji always wanted, and he's just getting thrown more and more into the dirt. He's also very unlucky within here because another student comes along and punches him because he thought he was dissing Chainsaw Man. What's crazy is that it's doubled down from here in a really disgusting way. Denji is the one that gets blamed for him being punched, right? Because he fought back, not a crazy deal. But this teacher goes to threaten Denji with suspension, but he also mentions that kids without parents are quick to start fights. That's wild. There's no need to bring that up. That's just ridiculous in every facet. And of course, Denji's just absorbing all of this guilt with a blankest expression until Yoshida arrives. This man is just manipulative. He's a weirdo, he's a creep, and obviously his agenda is very deeply rooted with Denji and controlling that to any extent possible. It feels oddly fitting that they both skip school to watch a movie, but it's very turbulent. And Fujimoto likes to do this thing where It kind of plays off artistry in kind of a symbolic way without any real directional meaning behind it. So it could have meaning, or you could just easily bypass it. A devil being dead on the floor at a cinema doesn't scream symbolism all too much, right? But when you think about the importance of movies, especially to Denji, this kind of blend between both worlds, and one piece of it being Denji's normalcy, which is movies, for me was very eerie. There's a lot of words that Yoshida says to amplify this scene further in a way that makes things very uncomfortable. He says that Denji isn't the protagonist of this movie, obviously referencing that, and says that it's not like the world will end without you. This is a pretty difficult thing to say. I don't know why Yoshida feels this confident in saying that if he even slightly knows what Pochita is or what Chainsawman is, and I can only assume that he does to a certain extent, and maybe that's the problem. Maybe the big issue that Yoshida has is that Pochita could ruin everything. The ability of erasing something is detrimental. If you erase something that is vital for the human race to continue to exist, you may want to keep that under control. Now, that's not to say that Denji or Pochita would just go and do it. We've seen it be the opposite. But maybe Yoshida, his group, and even Fami don't want to take that risk with the Black Chainsaw Man. The reason I even bring this up is because it's very ironic. Everything that they're doing now, for whatever reason, is to subdue Chainsaw Man, basically tranquilize him and just keep him within a normal life. The artistry in this chapter kind of reflects how lonely it is. It's very sad. The problem, however, is that I don't think they know how the Black Chainsaw Man works. Even us as readers with all the information and everything that we've experienced don't really know how the Black Chainsaw Man works. Let me give you an example. What do you think is the requirement for Black Chainsaw Man to actually be spawned? I'll let you chew on that for a moment, try and come up with an idea. There's really none. There's no real indicator or things or requirements that we know of that have to take place before Pochita comes out to play. There's one thing, however, that seems somewhat consistent, but it entirely depends on how Makima involved herself within it. Denji was at his lowest point when he transformed. He lost everything. He was completely devoid of life. The Denji you once knew before he transformed was gone. So the question is, do you have to bring Denji down to such a level, no self-worth, no identity whatsoever, just a shell, to be able to provoke Pochita to activate? If that is by any means true or accurate, even just slightly, do you see the problem? Yoshida and Fami are both pushing Denji down further and further, so they may accidentally spawn Black Chainsaw Man, which is what they don't want. However, Fami also promised Black Chainsaw Man to war. So how do we do that? If this is their goal, Fami might just try to replace him. When you take that idea and run further with it, it doesn't really make sense. Pochita is integral with Denji. The heart of Pochita is also Denji's. I don't know if Fami knows this. It's not like Black Chainsaw Man spawns at the back of Denji. No, they are quite literally the same being at that point. It doesn't just erase Denji from existence. It doesn't get rid of that humanoid body. It's still there. They're a part of each other. I don't know if they can be disconnected, but Fami may want to try. She may think that she could starve the Black Chainsaw Man. Now that is probably believable. She'd done it with a primal fear, which are very powerful. Maybe then she could try and split them apart. But in reality, Fami is just as weird as Yoshida when it comes to how manipulative and creepy and unsure they actually are. The rest of this chapter just shows the exploitation of Denji's weakness. He's down in the dumps and Yoshida has provided a date for him. It's not the date that you think it is, however. It is quite literally exploiting his weakness of sexual fantasies. That is it. This is probably the most disgusting thing Yoshida could do, because this is entirely what controlled Denji's perspective within part 1. Makima was that problem. Now Yoshida is taking that same approach. This is not good, because you actually get to see right before she does anything, just a slice of what Denji is going through mentally, of self-reflection, something that's very powerful, very important for Denji to do. And it gets interrupted. That's where the chapter ends. There's a random girl that has this weird grin trying to be Asa or Makima 2.0 exploiting him, all thanks to Yoshida. and he doesn't know how to act. He doesn't know what to do. This is the first time for him. I'm actually really worried to see how he reacts to this, because I really hope it doesn't demoralize him or bring up trauma that is so integral to his being. There's a lot of stuff there when it comes to Denji's childhood, his upbringing, the manipulation from Makima, and this has the potential to trigger it all. The question, is that Yoshida's goal? There's so many theories and ideas and things we can talk about, but we're all talking in circles. We don't know what Fujimoto is going to do. We do know, however, that we can expect it to be a great read, a fun time, just like this chapter. I absolutely loved it. I'm excited for next week, because we do get another chapter, to see where he goes, to see how further we drive towards this direction of Denji. Flat out saying he's not the protagonist is wild. All we can do now is hope and pray that our boy stays safe. I'd love to hear your thoughts about the chapter and where you think we're going to go from here. Leave a like, comment, subscribe. It supports me a ton and I would greatly appreciate it.